Hi everyone, Casey here with Casey Johnston Coaching, and I want to thank you for joining me for today's huddle. Today we're going to be talking about rest, recharge, and repeat. So we have energy to do the things that we love and to show up for the people who matter most in our lives. So today we're going to get started. As I share my screen here, we are going to get started with a little activity to pause. And today that activity is a visualization. So I invite you to find yourself in a comfortable position. Maybe bringing your feet flat to the floor, closing your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. And as you settle in, I want you to take a few deep breaths. And as you close your eyes or maybe glance down at your feet or your lap, I want you to begin to visualize yourself doing an activity or being in a space that is relaxing and restful. So as you're bringing yourself into that restful or relaxing place, I want you to tune into your senses. What sounds are present in this restful or relaxing place? Are there people present? And if yes, who? What are the things that you're doing or maybe not doing? Where are you located? What time of day is it? Are there any tastes or smells present? What things can you touch or are touching you? As you bring all of your senses into this restful activity, this relaxing environment, I want you to breathe one more full breath into this space. Inhaling, embracing that ability to recharge. And as you exhale, I invite you to bring yourself back into the moment wherever you're at today. As you take this pause to transition, I want you to notice what, if anything, has changed in just those 60 to 90 seconds of reflecting and visualizing on a place that is relaxing for you. Awesome. So we're going to get started here today. And we are going to start, like I said, discussing rest, recharge, and repeat. So we're going to talk about how to fit rest into our day-to-day living so we can have energy to do the things that we want to do. And we want to prioritize these restful actions so that way we have recovery in our day-to-day living. Now, one of the challenges today we face is kind of the social norm of everybody trying to squeeze every ounce of productivity and energy out of ourselves every single day, no matter what the cost. But that cost has begun to catch up with us, especially as a society, as many of us can relate to feeling burned out, overwhelmed, maybe stress and anxiety, or even having unmet expectations. And these unmet expectations may be things that are met by ourselves or by other people in our life. The list can go on of these costs that not prioritizing rest and restful activities can bring to us. But today, we're going to talk about giving yourself hope and permission that this unsustainable pace of life, where we push ourselves beyond capacity only to dump yourself onto your couch at the end of the night, doesn't have to be the norm. How we intentionally choose to spend our time can help us shift our energy back to the harmony that makes sense for our unique lives. So, we're going to be covering what rest is, why it's important, and how we can start to integrate rest and recharging activities into our day-to-day living so we can show up for the things that are important to us. So, what is rest? Maybe take a moment to think, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that word rest? Sleep might be one of the first thoughts, but rest can come in many other forms. Could be a specific action, or maybe it's a lack of action. And rest can be woven into our day-to-day living, not just a static point of time at night. So rest by definition is a state of repose, sleep, or temporary interruption of motion, exertion, or labor. Rest can include activities that bring calm, tranquility, or the feeling of being free from worry or trouble. So rest can be a number of things, but this does mean, yes, it includes our sleep needs and sleep habits, but also includes how we structure our day. to include those activities that facilitate rest, that lighten the load or slow the speed of our day-to-day living, maybe from the world around us. Kind of counterculture to hustle culture is that restful, intentional movement. So why is rest important? When we prioritize rest, we are giving ourselves permission that these personal needs are as valuable as the needs of those we care about and prioritize. So, a common phrase that many of us have heard is you can't pour from an empty cup, meaning if we are not a well and rested person, we're not able to show up for those around us. So, there's a couple different things that come along with rest. There's a number of ways. We're going to talk sleep. Sleep is this naturally reoccurring state where we reduce our awareness of the world around us. This is reduced consciousness. We experience changes in our body and brain. It's very cyclical. And when we get consistent and enough sleep, our body's ability to heal and regulate increases. It helps us build resilience and physical health so we can improve our quality of life overall. Now, the amount of sleep each person needs varies, but the kind of standard is that 7 to 9 hours, and the environment in which people sleep best in typically has some variation, but that quiet, dark room in a cooler temperature. So again, everybody has their specifics of what cooler temperature means and what dark looks like. Maybe it includes a sound or noise machine. Everybody's specifics are a little bit different, but there are some commonalities that we all tend to sleep best going to bed at the same time or a similar time each night and getting up at that same similar time each morning. Now, talking restful activities. These are activities that promote relaxation, reduction of stress, and benefit our overall well-being, Now, when we think of these benefits of rest, we're going to categorize these benefits into 4 categories. Physical rest, okay, these are things like napping, getting a massage, stretching, kind of that gentle movement of your body. Maybe yoga falls under here, or even just spending time on the floor, kind of grounding yourself. Now, there's also mental rest. This might include kind of shutting off that automatic thoughts that trickle in. Things that give us mental rest is reading, listening to music, journaling, or meditating. Another category of rest is emotional rest. Now, this kind of frees us from our worries. Things like connecting with others or maybe disconnecting with social media. Being creative can fall into this category of emotional rest or even spending time on other hobbies. Being creative and spending time on hobbies goes hand in hand. Creative doesn't just mean you like to draw or color or paint. Creative can mean anything that kind of falls into that hobby and you taking that and embracing that opportunity. And then we also have spiritual rest. This may be practicing gratitude, spending time in prayer, volunteering, kind of connecting to something outside of yourself. Now, one more category that may be considered as well for a restful activity is sensory rest, where we reduce kind of the input of things coming into our body. Now, this could be reducing light, so getting out in the sunshine, the fresh air, versus the artificial light of maybe offices, screens, different things like that. It could be sounds. Maybe we need to decompress and take ourselves out of a noisy environment, whether that's family, friends, kids, work, whatever that is, and kind of quiet the body and mind and lessen the input of the sound input coming into our body. Being in nature is one of the best ways to help us kind of have that sensory rest or reduction of input. So many benefits of having rest and many restful activities that fall under different restful categories. So how do we do this, right? How do we recharge to best support our rest and sleep routines? Well, starting with sleep, as we introduced today, is by building a sleep or bedtime routine. Now, again, some of the core components, and this can look different for each one of us, is reducing our screen time prior to going to bed. There's a number of experts who will say 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. Find the time frame that works best for you and practice it for a little while and see what you notice. Maybe you're going to start with 10 or 15 minutes prior to going to bed. You're going to put your phone away. Start small and build that confidence and build that momentum. So maybe you extend it to 30 minutes and grow from there based upon your individual needs. From there, another thing to consider when building a bedtime routine or consistent sleep habits is completing the same actions each night to let the body and brain know what is happening next. For example, changing into pajamas. So many of us just fall asleep in whatever we wound down in the evening, and that physical act of changing into clothes only for sleep helps the brain know what is happening next. Another thing might be always brushing your teeth and washing your face, flossing your teeth, all in the same order, in the same place, at the same time. Another key component, like I mentioned earlier, is going to bed and waking up at similar times each day. Ideally, we have a less than 60 to 90-minute variation each day. So that means if during the week you go to bed at 10 p.m. and you wake up at 6 a.m., great. But on the weekends, if we're beyond that 11:30 kind of time frame of going to bed or getting up at 10 a.m., we're kind of off on that sleep cycle. So we want that consistent sleep cycle. That's not to say you can't sleep in every now and again or stay up late, but again, that consistency over time of going to bed at a similar time and waking up at a similar time each day helps the body get into those rhythms and routines that help us nurture healthy sleep habits. Now, when we're thinking of restful activities, this can be a little bit trickier because the grind and hustle culture of day-to-day life doesn't always promote rest time to take for ourselves for restful activities. So I invite you to kind of create a restful activity plan. That might be setting aside specific time each day, each week, or even monthly for activities that facilitate rest for you. So you can start to look at your days, weeks, and months and determine what is the frequency that you would like to prioritize your restful activities. Maybe realistically, you're going to start with something happening once a month because right now you're not doing anything. Or maybe it feels realistic for you to try something once a week. Remember that the frequency and the duration or the time spent in these restful activities is going to be unique to you and your current circumstances. Yes, at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours each day, but the different things that we have as responsibilities are unique to each one of us. So again, give yourself permission to create a routine that feels right for you and makes sense for the stage of life you're in right now. Now, determine what type of activities you can fit into your routine that provide that well-rounded approach of rest. So a slide ago, making sure we have something that includes physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, and spiritual rest. Those are going to be all key components to creating a restful activity plan that makes sense and it helps us facilitate that well-being. And again, start with an activity that feels doable. And again, build on your routine from there. When we start small, it allows us to build momentum with our successes. This allows us to increase the likelihood that we're going to continue to build and grow these habits. So when you start to think about rest, a couple questions to help you consider before we wrap up. How would you rate your current resting and recharge habits on a scale of 0 to 10? 0 being, I need all the help I can get. 10 being, I have a perfect sleep and rest routine that helps me stay energized each week. As you have your number down, question might be, what makes it that number? So what makes it a 7? What are the things that you're doing? Or what makes it a 4? What are those opportunities that you might want to grow in? Another question to consider as you're wrapping up, what might you gain by growing your rest and recharge habits? What are some of those potential positive outcomes you might experience from gaining a deeper understanding or increasing your rest and relaxation time? How might keeping rest and recharge activities top of mind impact you and your well-being? And if you gave yourself an 8, 9, or even a 10 at the beginning of how you would rate your current rest and recharge habits, what do you want to keep doing so that way you can sustain that confidence and efficacy in keeping your restful habits going? So, as you're getting started, you've kind of reflected on where you're at and where you might want to go. Um, what might you like to try? Is there something that comes top of mind that you might want to explore or get curious about as you're building your rest routine? As you're thinking about that activity, maybe make a note. What tools or support, even accountability, might you need to make that habit or to grow that habit? Also, jot down, what does success look like? Is success trying it? Or is success creating a rest routine? How long do you have to hold your rest routine? What does that success look like? And is there any way that you can make that action item a little bit more specific so you have the clarity of knowing, yes, I did this, or I am doing this. This is nurturing my well-being. So as we discussed, rest is that instance or period of relaxation, or no longer engaging in activities. Benefits of rest not only include physical, mental, emotional, but spiritual and sensory rest as well. And as you think about building a rest routine, it's important to consider sleep and restful activities. So I want to thank you for joining me today. A couple updates. If you have any questions about well-being, rest, and recharge activities, feel free to reach out to me at info@caseyjohnstoncoaching.com. Feel free to give me a call at 605-370-8457 or visit my website at caseyjohnstoncoaching.com and we can get in touch and get you anything that you may need. We are going to be taking a little summer break from huddles, so look for us to come back in October of 2025. But until then, you can visit our YouTube channel and get all of the past huddles that we've covered up until this point in time. I believe there's almost 20 of them out there, so lots of information to help you while you are on a little summer sabbatical. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. Thank you for joining me today. All the best.